Hello and welcome, my friends. Today I am presenting to you something different. I'd like to share with you all my Synoptic Memorizer of Materia Medica. This was a book which I have worked on for almost a decade, 10 years. It was published last year, around January or February, but I haven't made any detailed presentation about it. But I thought it's time because it's almost a year, and I'd like to share with you about this book which I put my heart and soul into it. Synoptic Memorizer, as you can see, is a revised and enlarged edition with comparative Materia Medica. The original Synoptic Memorizer was written by my dear father 42 years back, in the 1980s. And it was published, and it was quite a hot-selling book. And in this first volume, we have tried to put in around 120 plus medicines, 125 plus medicines, which are there in the undergraduate curriculum and which are polycrests and some medium-sized and small remedies as well. Now, to give a brief introduction of our relationship with Materia Medica, I'd like to share with you that in the initial years when I was in my school, and I used to come back home and see the multitude of patients across in my dad's clinic. And I was really fascinated that I'd like to be that doctor who will have this huge crowd of patients as well. And that developed my interest towards homeopathy. Belladonna, aconite were remedies which almost learned as a toddler, like Clark's ABC nursery drugs, aconite, belladonna, chamomilla. And when I entered into the undergraduate curriculum, my dad made sure that he taught me every remedy in the undergraduate curriculum. So although he was in the UK and I was studying in Calcutta, he made sure that I learned each of the remedies in terms of the understanding of the essence of Materia Medica. So he did Skype sessions with me every day almost, and made sure I learned the medicines in the undergraduate curriculum from him. As time progressed, he used to come to Calcutta, and every time he used to come, he used to ask me to sit in the clinic. But to be honest, in the first year, I thought, what will I know? What will I learn? But this is a very important learning which I like to share, especially with the young graduates. The more you see patients, the better it will always be. Why? Because you learn what the patient is saying. And my granddad have always said there's always a gap between the cup and the lip. And one of the essences of this book is to bridge that gap between the cup and the lip. To bridge the gap between practical and theoretical Materia Medica. Many times you'll see that there's one language of the Materia Medica and there's a language of the patient. And bridging that gap, interpreting between what the patient is saying and what the language of the Materia Medica is, that is one of the key essences which I have picked up and which has helped to develop good practice. That's why you'll see many a times very good students are not necessarily very good practitioners because they have not learned to bridge that gap between the cup and the lip. So one of the reasons of putting in this effort of this book is to share with you what I have learned and how to differentiate or bridge that gap between theoretical and practical Materia Medica, to learn the practical implementations of the language of the Materia Medica and how to use it in practice. Now, I have taught Materia Medica from a very young age, from the first and second years almost. I used to teach students, undergrads, and that's one of the reasons what developed my love towards comparative Materia Medica. If you have seen my videos in the past, you'll see I've talked about comparative Materia Medica, to learn the innate differentiations between two closely related remedies. And I've also tried to put forward in this book about the comparative Materia Medica and how you can make a judgment between these are the similarities, these are the practical differences, not the differences which you need for your exam, but when the patient is sitting in front of you, when to go for a pulsatilla, when to go for a CPM. And that I have tried to bring forward in this book as well, that to understand the comparative Materia Medica. Now, if you see the name of this book, that is Synoptic Memorizer. And you wonder that why this name, Synoptic Memorizer. There are two parts of this answer. One is obviously the synoptic part and the other is the memorizer part. Now, synopsis is why? Because we have presented an amalgamation of varied styles, varied presentations, varied perspectives from varied angles from various authors. So you get descriptions by Master Kent, you get descriptions from Nash, Tyler, N.M. Chaudhary, Pulford, Hahnemann himself, Allen and Borike, of course, even Dunham in many places, Farrington in many places. So I have liberally taken references from those classical masters to not only help the young generation arouse interest, that you make sure to read those literatures, but also taking the good old professionals back to their basics. This is what the masters say, perhaps we're deviating from that path. To be very honest with you, to write a new Materia Medica is absolutely absurd. You cannot write a new Materia Medica because there are hundreds and thousands already written. But what I have sincerely tried is to bring forward the varied understandings to learn the essence of the remedy. So that is one of the reasons why it is synoptic, because we have made a synopsis of the presentations, of the angles, of the perspective of those great classical masters by giving case examples. You see in many remedies, I have put in italics the case examples, by putting forward the exact languages of the different authors. N.M. Chaudhary in Naxomica says that they are the best doctors, best commercial magnates, best scientists, but they're not as pleasant as they're great. And you see, these lines will stay back with you to learn the essence of the Materia Medica. Master Kent in Arnica chapter says that little Johnny wants to go up and around the grandfather, but grandfather is afraid, don't let Johnny come near him, stay away, stay away. But give him a dose of Arnica and he'll let Johnny run all over him. So much is the degree of oversensitiveness to pain. So these pictorial representations will help you grasp the essence of the Materia Medica. And one of the things which I've learned from my granddad, that you must know your polychrist like a father knows her child, like a mother knows her child. You should know the in and out, mentals, physicals, particulars, modalities, so that when the patient is in front of you, you are not less in confidence. Now the second part is the memorizer part. What is the memorizer? You'll see with each medicine, we have put forward a drug totality, mnemonics to help you remember remedies. Many times for students starting off, even for seasoned practitioners, to dive into a vast ocean of Materia Medica is difficult. But with these mnemonics, with these memorizing tips, it will help you to a certain extent to remember these remedies. This was always developed by my father, and I have tried to add to those. Obviously, Dad has put his inputs into it, and we have expanded the memorizer part with each remedy. So many times you'll see denotative connotations like philosopher for sulfur, modality for brine, M for modality, O for often desires things which are not to be had. So modality, and these mnemonics will help you through psychosis. So this will help you to grasp the essence of the remedies and remember it for a longer time as well. Now, with the words which I said, you'll find that in the preface as well. I have tried to incorporate that, and I'd like to take you to one remedy to just give you a brief description of these remedies. This is pulsatilla chapter. Now with each remedy where we're starting off, there is an introduction part. So introduction gives the common name, the family, the prover. Then there is the drug totality, and the drug totality, if you see here, Pulsatilla. So these are mnemonics which will help you to remember. So that's a memorizer part. Then comes the constitution, and with each remedy, the constitution, the polycrests which are applicable, we put in the constitution: physical makeup, thermal reaction, diathesis, temperament, and the miasm. So you'll find the constitution part which most of the polycrests. Then comes the causation, general causation, particular causations are there as an overview. Then we go to the mental symptoms. Now with the mental symptoms, again there is a mnemonics which will help you to remember. Now for pulsatile, I'm giving you just an example. What happens many times if you understand the varied views, the varied presentations, it will help you to remember the remedy. For example, Kent says for pulsatile that pulsatile is irritable, but is always a passive irritability. Pulsatile woman is remarkably irritable, not in the sense of pugnacity, but easily irritated, extremely touchy. So they are irritated, but it's always a passive irritability in pulsatile. It's not an active irritability. They will not shout. So that's Kent's views. Nash says for pulsatile chapter, pulsatile suits those cases where there's a changeable contradictory state. There is no head or tail to it. So you're starting a case, you find there's no clear clarity of symptoms, no head or tail to it, especially when the patient has an abuse of iron tonics. Pulsatile will help you. Such is again the practical implementations mentioned by Nash. Now, John Henry Clark gives a beautiful description about pulsatile, and that has helped me practically many times in practice. That Miss Pulsatile will weep when narrating her symptoms, when telling about her symptoms. They start talking, tears will come to them naturally. But Sepia will cry when pressed about her symptoms. Sepia weeps when questioned about her symptoms, and such a beautiful differentiation. And that's a practical differentiation when the patient is actually sitting in front of you. Not for your textbooks, not for seminars, not for the exams, but how to differentiate between the patient. So such varied presentations will help you to grasp the essence of the remedy. It will help you to make the portrait of the woman, pulsatile woman, and that is always goes a long time in helping you to prescribe these remedies. So after the mental symptoms, we come to the characteristic symptoms as well. Characteristics, again we have tried to put in mnemonics wherever applicable. Pulse 2C, 2D, 2C, 4D, 2 doses, 2 centesimal scale, 4 doses. It's like that, so it helps you to remember. So we have the characteristics after that, physical characteristics. Then there's a theme and essence. You'll find many of the theme and essence in my dad's book on rapid classical prescribing, but we have tried to put the theme and essence wherever applicable as well. The physical theme and essence followed by the mental theme and essence as well. After that, we come to the particular symptoms, and again the particular symptoms wherever applicable, especially clinically, and which is practically applicable as well. So here you see we have started with the gastrointestinal symptoms because pulsatile's sphere of action is the gastrointestinal. And in the particular symptoms, we have tried to put in the weak links of the remedy. So these are the areas where pulsatile breaks its chain. You won't find you mention pulsatile neurological symptoms because that's not an area of action which pulsatile has an affinity for. But gastrointestinal, that's the weak link for pulsatile. So lots about the gastrointestinal, bloating, diarrhea, dysentery. Then female sexual symptoms, because this again another weak link of pulsatile. The female sexual symptoms, the menstruation, the leukorrhea, the abortion, or the pregnancy-related symptoms. Then we come to the respiratory symptoms of pulsatile, and so you see we have tried to put in the weak links which are practically, clinically applicable: female sexual, respiratory, and gastric. We have the general modalities. Wherever applicable, we have tried to put in the seasons, the thermals, the positions, and then we have the particular modalities related to the particular organs. Modalities, my friends, especially for the polycrest, you have to know it in and out because that will sometimes help you differentiate between related remedies. Relationship, the complementary, the inimical medicines are mentioned here, followed by the oral questionnaire. The oral questionnaire is or has been developed or was developed by my father, especially for students, examinees, but obviously there are practical implementations to the questionnaire as well. So the oral questionnaire part, and some of the lesser particular symptoms also mentioned in the oral questionnaire. For example, if you see here, so the eye symptoms of pulsatile. So you'll find the styes, the chalazions mentioned under the eye symptoms. So the lesser particular symptoms, but practically applicable, are also mentioned in the particular part. And again, some of the comparisons are mentioned here in the particular part, especially. You see, this is the comparison in menstrual complaints: ammon carp, graphitis, pulsatilla sickle cord, Ammon-Carp prophytis, pulsatilla sickle cord. So the comparative Materia Medica I was talking about. What are the similarities? What are the differences? To make a quick differentiation, especially when the patient is sitting in front of you. So the comparative Materia Medica is also mentioned here, and we have tried to put in different remedies for a particular condition. So you'll find state 5 remedies for thirstlessness. So you know what are your thirstless remedies in one place. So those are also mentioned here. 5 remedies for thirstlessness, and you can do a quick comparison as well with these aspects. So this was one of the remedies which is mentioned here. Obviously, if you look at the introduction, you'll see the forewords made to the initial or the first Synoptic Memorizer of my father by Dr. Diwan Harishchan, Dr. S.K. Dubey, Dr. S.R. Shah. They put in forwards for the original textbook of Materia Medica. To be honest with you, my friends, that's about the details of the book which I'd like to share with you. I shared with you, I worked around 10 years for this book, 2012 to 2022, when I finished the manuscript and handed over to beloved B.Jain Publishers. To be very honest with you, as you know, I'm the 5th generation homeopath and have learned many ancestral tips, many essences of many remedies through the last 4 generations. And you have seen in all of my videos, I'm sure, that our approach is always from Materia Medica. If you know your polycrest, like a mother knows her child, you'll having a roaring practice. So we hardly use a repertory, but obviously repertory is needed. But with these 127 medicines, I've tried to put forward my understanding of practical Materia Medica, of the practical implementations of Materia Medica and how to use it clinically, these remedies. And again, the major aim is to bridge the gap between the cup and the lip. But to top it all, I will say one of the major aims I hope I can evoke to the reader is to develop the love and passion for Materia Medica. It's such a lovely subject to study and understand, and then to see it clinically in practice. It will give you sheer and immense joy which nothing else can give. So enjoy this book, I hope, if you have got it already. If you're not, I'm very bad at selling myself, but I would like you to have a read of this book. And to end it, I will say N.M. Chaudhary's quote that he used to say when teaching at the Bengal Allen Medical College, that if you love your Materia Medica, jewels will fall before you like the falls of Niagara. So thank you very much, and hope you like and read the Synoptic Memorizer of Materia Medica. Volume 1, if it's good enough, we will do a volume 2 to do more 120 remedies.